Sound Words, Christian Magazine, republished by Irving Risch, host of Down-to-Earth but Heavenly-Minded podcast. The Call of Saul of Tarsus. Stephen, as the first martyr for the Lord Jesus Christ, entered triumphantly into the presence of him for whom he died, and one of the witnesses of his death was a young man, whose name was Saul, at whose feet the witnesses laid their clothes, and who was consenting to their wicked deed. Not satisfied with the death of Stephen, Saul made havoc of the church, entering into every house, and hailing men and women committed them to prison. Acts chapter 8 verse 3. No doubt thinking that he was doing God's service, Saul, in religious zeal, carried his persecuting work to other parts, obtaining the authority of the high priest to bring in bonds to Jerusalem those who owned allegiance to Jesus, thus fulfilling the words spoken by the Lord to his disciples in John chapter 16 verse 2. How very solemn that zeal for religion should be found persecuting the servants of the one whom he professed to serve, truly manifesting ignorance of the true God, revealed in the Son. As Saul journeys to Damascus, he is utterly unaware of what was to befall him, of the wonderful thoughts of God for his salvation and blessing. Little did he think, or any other who had witnessed the death of Stephen, that from among that company the Son of God would take up one to carry on the testimony given by Stephen. Stephen had witnessed to the glory of Jesus at God's right hand, and this testimony was destined to be carried abroad by a vessel chosen and fitted by Christ himself. No doubt, even his witnessing of Stephen's death was ordered of the Lord in view of Saul's future service. Doubtless the arrow of conviction had entered his heart there, even if he was found still in opposition, kicking against the pricks. Nearing Damascus, there suddenly shone round about him a light from heaven, and he fell to the earth, and heard a voice saying to him, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? The light that had enabled Stephen to behold Christ's glory in heaven now shines upon his erstwhile persecutor, and the voice tells him that in persecuting Stephen and the other followers of Jesus, he was persecuting the Lord himself. What amazement for poor Saul as he receives the revelation that the Lord that he acknowledges in heaven is the Jesus who had been here as the man of sorrows. It is not a voice of accusation, but a voice of tender love and grace, that breaks in upon his conscience and reaches the deep recesses of his heart. Thus is Saul stayed on his rebellious course, and secured as a trophy of divine grace, a chosen vessel for the Lord, and to be a companion of the Christ in his glory. As a chosen vessel he would witness to the light of the glory shining in the face of Jesus, and unfold the truth of the saints on earth being united to Christ in the place where Stephen saw him. After receiving his sight and being brought by the gift of the Spirit into the joys that the gospel had brought him, Saul is enabled to preach Jesus in the synagogues, that he is the Son of God. What a wonderful change had taken place in Saul, preaching the glad tidings of the faith which formerly he ravaged, preaching that the crucified Nazarene was the Son of God, the one in whom God is revealed in his nature, love, the one in whom all the promises of God are yea and amen. Paul in his Gospel declares Jesus to be the Son of God with power, according to the Spirit of holiness, by the resurrection of the dead, as the firstborn among many brethren, preeminent among the many sons that God has called according to his purpose, as having a kingdom, the Son of the Father's love. In the Acts we can see the progress of the preaching, Peter speaking of him as Lord and Christ, the one who has authority to command and power to carry it out. Then Stephen speaks of him as Son of Man, who will take up the universe of God where all shall be vocal with his praise. Then Saul announces him as Son of God, bringing out his surpassing moral beauties and the excellencies of his glorious person, in whose company we shall be forevermore, outpouring our praises to him who loved us and gave himself for us. Art Duncanson, what powerful, mighty voice, so near, calls me from earth apart, reaches with tones so still, so clear, from th unseen world my heart.